Hello everyone. I'm Avanti and on behalf of Solar Quarter and First View Group, I would like to extend a warm welcome to each and everyone joining us today for the very informative webinar on From Oil to Solar, Kuwait's Renewable Energy Shift and Battery Storage Revolution. First of all, I would like to thank our distinguished guest speakers and all attendees for being a part of this enlightening conversation. Your presence today makes this discussion very impactful and crucial in understanding the ongoing transformation in Kuwait's energy sector. As Kuwait takes steps towards a more sustainable future, the country is working hard to shift its energy focus from oil to renewables, with solar power being a key pillar in this transformation. With the development of major renewable energy projects and advances in battery storage and smart grids, Kuwait is positioning itself towards a cleaner, more diversified energy future. In today's webinar, we will explore the current state of Kuwait's renewable energy sector with a special focus on solar power and energy storage solutions. Our discussions will cover challenges such as grid integration and energy storage technologies, as well as the latest advancements in battery storage, which are a key element in enhancing solar efficiency. We will also discuss the investment opportunities, the importance of public private partnerships, and the workforce development required to make the renewable energy vision a reality for Kuwait. Before we begin, I would like to make a quick announcement. We encourage all attendees to actively engage in this discussion by submitting their questions in the Q&A box. Our esteemed panel of speakers will address your questions during the interactive Q&A session at the conclusion of the panel discussion. Additionally, I would like to take this opportunity to announce the much awaited physical event, the Solar Week Kuwait 2025 Conference and Awards, happening on 10th of April 2025 in Kuwait City. This premier event will bring together industry leaders and stakeholders to discuss Kuwait's renewable energy transformation. Stay tuned for more update. May I kindly request my team to play the curtain raiser video. Thank you, team. Dear audience, we are glad to bring you this amazing interactive and informative platform on 10th of April in Kuwait City, and we look forward to seeing you in person over there. Now, to engage with you all further, we would like to hear your thoughts. We will be launching a quick poll with a few questions that will help us understand your perspective on today's topics. Please take a moment to answer the poll questions that will appear on your screen. Your feedback is important and we will help us shape future discussions. Let's begin the poll now. This is the first poll of question. What is the biggest challenge for Kuwait's transition from oil to solar? Okay. Okay, we will be showcasing the next one. What will be the key driver of Kuwait's renewable energy growth in the next 12 months? Okay, the next one. What is the biggest barrier to financing solar and storage projects in Kuwait?
Just to add, PPA here means power purchase agreements.
Okay. The next one. What is the biggest challenge for Kuwait's transition from oil to solar?
I think Avanti, this has already been answered. It's been
Okay.
said before.
Yes. What policy change would have the biggest impact on Kuwait's solar sector? And now the last one. How do you see Kuwait's solar plus storage potential evolving in the next 5 years? Okay, thank you so much, everyone. So, thank you so much for giving your answers. So, now without further delay, let's begin our highly anticipated panel discussion. It's my pleasure to introduce our esteemed panel of experts who will share their insights on the opportunities and challenges in Kuwait's renewable energy market. The panelists are Ms. Asil Al Sadi, a technical manager in JA Solar, Ms. Heba Thahabi, Technical Solutions Manager in Huawei, Mr. Salim Al Azmi, former consultant to His Excellency Minister of Electricity, Water and Renewable Energy, and we are pleased to have Mr. Hashim Al Brani, Business Development Manager, Shajara Sustainability Solution, as our esteemed moderator for this session. So, without any further ado, let's begin the discussion. Over to you, Mr. Hashim. Mr. Hashim, you're on mute.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Avanti, for introducing me. And I think you missed maybe Ms. Hiba Dahabi from. She's a regional technical solutions manager at Hawaii Digital Power. And I'm glad here to be part of this panel discussion as the need and the clear vision of Kuwait and the GCC is ramping up. And Kuwait is catching up to this trend, to this need, to this let's say, like favorable trend. Previously, renewable energy was not really a need in Kuwait. Let's say, like in the past years, 10, 15 years ago, there were many challenges, high capex, capital for like these investments, and maybe less efficiencies, less technology. But as of now, as the pricing is going down with the options going up, and the need of stable grid in Kuwait and the high demand and with the increase in population, we see that solar is should be one of the pillars now in Kuwait to cover up all this demand. And as the title says, oil to solar. So when we say oil to solar, we're not saying replacing that, but to have solar to be in parallel in supporting the energy spectrum in Kuwait and having a diversification of resources for those energies in Kuwait. And we hope through these renewable energy projects and battery storage projects to enable Kuwait to get more advanced in many sectors. So to start off this session, I'll be having some questions to the panelists here, but also the other panelists are open to intervene in the answers and add to 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 the answers of their colleagues. And also, if they have a different opinion, we're open to that. We are here to have like some open conversation, authentic and genuine. At the end of the day, to benefit all of us in this room and in this meeting today. So I'll be starting with uh, Ms. Asil from JA Solar and putting the focus on Kuwait potential, on what's Kuwait solar energy potential based on its geographic advantages and exposure. If you can
Hello
elaborate.
everyone. Yeah. Hello everyone, and thank you for your presentation. I'm Asil Assadi, and I'm technical manager of Shai Solar. And if we need to discuss Kuwait solar energy and the potential to have more solar energy to be deployed in Kuwait, I would say that Kuwait receives abundant sunlight year round, and with daily solar radiation averaging between 5.5 to 6.5 kilowatts per hour per meter square, and it's considered as the highest solar potential levels in the world, so making it ideal for photovoltaic deployment. In terms of also other geographical thing that is in Kuwait, that we have large desert areas, so it's available for solar plants installation. And in terms of commercial industrial sector, like commercial buildings, hospitals, schools, and other commercial industrial buildings can be used to deploy more solar energy. And lots of inquiries are like requesting how could we install modules and deploy more solar energy in Kuwait, and we have high dust levels, we have extreme summer temperatures. I could say that at JA Solar we have different solutions, and we tackle these challenges by offering effective solutions that can withstand high dust levels in terms of regular reduction of dust or dust accumulation by providing you a solution which is called anti-dust solution. And we have also other solutions that capable for desert technology, desert areas, and extreme summer temperatures. And we use latest technology in terms of cells, which is TopCon, so has a temperature coefficient of minus 0.29% per Celsius degree, which can help to deploy more solar energy in high temperature environments.
So, based on your answer, Ms. Asil, the challenges that Kuwait and the region were facing 10 years ago have been reduced significantly with the new technologies. Is that what I'm hearing from you?
Yeah, Yeah, exactly. Because we're providing, like, as manufacturer, we can provide several solutions that can tackle these challenges and to overcome them. So, like providing Adidas solution, providing products that capable for desert areas, and we have other products that used for to be deployed for offshore, onshore applications. So, as manufacturer, we can provide different solutions to help countries to achieve their targets in terms of energy mix and to reduce carbon emissions.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Asir. And now going to Ms. Hiba from Huawei, we want you to maybe like let us know what are the emerging battery storage technologies that could play a key role in Kuwait's solar energy utilization. How can we benefit from them in Kuwait in different aspects?
So, Hashim, thank you so much for the introduction and for following up on event to introduce me to the audience. So, thank you for the question as well. And to add to what Asil has mentioned, Engineer Asil, about the temperature and the, let's say, geographical conditions of or location of Kuwait. So, first of all, first thing to tackle before we head into the battery technologies, which is basically the high temperatures in Kuwait. So one of the first, let's say, concerns or like the most raised questions and concerns in the industry are basically, is it safe to deploy batteries in let's say areas or countries with high temperatures? So 100%, Kuwait is very well known for the high temperatures reaching or exceeding even in some on some occasions and days exceeding 50 degrees Celsius, which, as everyone knows in the industry, causes a lot of degradation and reduction in the performance of whether it's the PV panels or the inverters or the batteries themselves. So that's the main concern there, which is basically increased temperature, reduced performance, or more degradation on the battery, the lifespan of it, and even the inverters and the PV. If we're talking about the system as a whole in renewable energy from A to Z, they will be affected by the temperature. So right now in the market, a lot of people are, let's say, or a lot of technology providers are focusing on cooling systems for the batteries, let's say, and let's say improvising and being innovative when it comes to the cooling modes and so on. And other than that, also there are plenty of technologies in the market related to this battery cell, which is, if I would tie it to Huawei right now, we're using lithium iron phosphate, which is basically from one technology to another. There are, let's say, pros and cons, but I would say it's one of the safest cell types right now in the market, specifically of the thermal runaway, because one thing that we usually promote within the batteries is basically that if there's a thermal runaway, and just to explain what a thermal runaway for the audience is, it's basically when there's a temperature difference within the cell. So there's a rise in temperature, and there's temperature difference between each cell or packs, let's say. And usually within the market, or let's say experts usually recommend having a temperature difference not exceeding 5% within the cells. So it goes back to the cell type itself and also the cooling method, or let's say the components that are used within the battery. I'll give you an example. Within our new batteries, we have deployed something that is called a hybrid cooling mode, which is basically utilizes liquid cooling and air cooling. And the reason why people are always looking for enhanced technology for the cooling method or modes, basically, is because of the auxiliary power. So right now, for example, if I tell you that I would deploy a 10, let's say a 1 megawatt hour of battery, does that mean that you're gonna utilize 1 megawatt hour of battery? There's no way, because you're gonna have losses when it comes to the round trip efficiency, for example, auxiliary power, losses in the cabling, and so on, up to the point of connection. So what is being, let's say, offered right now is a comparison between the D rating of the battery, or for example, also the round trip efficiency. What we're seeing right now in the market is a round trip efficiency of 93%, and some technologies are achieving 94%. It's all because of the also reduction when it comes to the cooling systems of it, and improved efficiency from optimizers and so on within the battery itself. So yes, if we had this discussion like 5 years ago, it would have been more of an awkward discussion of, can we use batteries in these regions, or would it cause like fire hazard or like a potential explosion? And as we saw also, like in some of, I'm not going to get into the names of the projects, but in some a lot of well-known projects that deployed batteries, we've seen a lot of fire hazards and explosions there. And that's a very crucial point there, because a lot of people are, let's say, going for the cheaper options, but mitigating, or let's say forgetting about the safety features of the batteries. So coming back to your question, if we want to talk about the technologies that are that are available right now in the market, more or less, most of the suppliers are using lithium iron phosphate. I would say the tier one, let's say suppliers. And the thing is, what we're looking at the moment is the C rating of the batteries. So right now, previously, you used to see a lot of suppliers supplying, like, let's say, 1C rating, 2C rating, and so on. But at the moment, and specifically in our region, they're focusing more on half C rating. Half C rating, just to explain it to the audience, which is basically the ratio between your power output to your energy, let's say, capacity. So more or less, it's a backup time of the battery. So half C rating, meaning that if you have like 1 megawatt hour of energy capacity of the battery, then it's going to give you a power of 500 kilowatt, which is reducing the C rating, will improve the lifespan of the battery, and will reduce the degradation of the battery, or the derating of the performance of the battery. That's why they're shifting to half C rating right now. I think that was a bit of a too depth into details, but just to give you an idea of what's happening right now in our market.
Yeah, I appreciate all this like detailed response, Ms. Hiba, because as we see like here in Kuwait, me personally dealing with some like the market and even sometimes the oil sector themselves, they're like a bit hesitant of getting into the storage, although like they require it hugely in their market and also the telecom projects. But within these new like parameters that you just mentioned and these specifics of the battery storage, they are getting improved quickly and heavily in favor of the end user, and which guarantees a more dependable lifetime performance. Yeah,
So
thank you
correct.
for
I
this.
just wanted to comment on one thing that you just said, basically, when it comes to oil and gas, because we've seen a lot of operators and, let's say, companies heading towards renewable energy for the drilling and extraction of oil, because they wanted to make it more sustainable in a way, although it's like one way or another, let's say. But the thing is, when it comes to oil and gas industry, what they focus on the most is the HSE requirements, the health, safety, environment requirements there, and they have very high standards in comparison to the rest, let's say, of the industries, which is mainly why we're focusing right now in on coming up with new technology when it comes to the safety of the batteries. Otherwise, we will not see, let's say, transition to complete dependence on renewable energy without the batteries. Of course, we all know that, and of course, the pricing of it. So just adding to the point of the oil and gas industry.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Hiba. Appreciate that. And we can also welcome Engineer Salim Al-Ajmi. He just joined us. Just to remind you, yeah, Engineer Salim Al-Ajmi, he is the faculty member at the Public Authority of Applied Education and Training, and he was also the former consultant for the for the Minister of Electricity, Water, and Renewable Energy. Welcome to the panel, Engineer Salim.
Thank you, my friend Engineer Hashim, and I apologize for being late for some circumstances I had before. I'm glad to be with you guys, with all the speakers and the audience, and yes, it's my pleasure to be with you.
Yeah, it's good to have you here, Engineer Salim. So to get you right to the panel quickly, so we have some maybe like if you can give us and share with us the current energy profile of Kuwait and how dependent is the country on oil and natural gas. Can solar be part of that as well?
Yes, actually, which is not mentioned before by the country, but the government has done very good work the last 15 years. They are trying to reduce the carbon footprint since 2012, and that has been filled in 2017 or 2019, when the share of natural gas and what do you call it, the steam power stations, they are getting equal. The share of steam substations, steam stations, steam power plants, it was like 60% the share of that, and natural gas was less than 40%. Now, in 2019, they got equal 50-50, and the country now moving to increase the share of natural gas. It's expected that in 2030 or 2035, the share of steam substation power stations will be like maybe 20%. This is what is expected. The natural gas and the combined cycles will be taken the increased share of producing electricity as the power sources. And for Kuwait, since 2007, when we had, the crisis of electricity, they moved, they tried to fix the situations after that, and they made a schedule to increase to improve the current power stations, and to increase, the units and so on. And after that, we filled safely in 2012, 2013, and yes, and the capacity of the power production was the margin between the demand and the capacity was quite good in 2013 until 2020. After 2020, what happened? There is some political issues, some common issues happened in Kuwait, made the future work to be moved slowly. The demand is increasing year by year, but the progress to move with the schedule was obstructed by many cases. In 2021, if you imagine, the capacity of productions in Kuwait was 20 gigawatt, and the demand was like 17.5 gigawatt. And we surprised last year, the capacity moved to 2000 to 18 gigawatt, and the demand was almost 18 gigawatt. We cannot say who is in the issues. He can't say it's a surprise, but the reasons that the government has some issues to move with the schedule of building a new substations or increase the units, and that's why we hear about the shortage during the summer. I hope in the future, they move quickly with the schedule of building and increasing the units in power stations, so we can go back to the safe margin between the demand and the production capacity.
Yeah, thank you for this answer, Engineer Salim. But to be more specific, so how much is solar now taking from the energy spectrum in Kuwait?
What do you mean exactly?
How much solar is
Ah,
contributing now to the grid? Yeah.
the share of the solar and the renewable actually is still low. It's less than, it's just a few percent. It's like less than 3% of the share. We only have few megawatts, like Shagaya phase 1, 70 megawatt, and some few megawatts in the oil sector. As all of the guys knew about Kuwait, the phase two of Shigaya is supposed to be in 2018 to be to be built and to be operated in 2020, but it's postponed many times. Until now, we reach the phase two and phase three to be one projects. Now they qualified a few consortiums to compete in that tender for the first phase of the final phase of Shigaya, which is 1.1 gigawatt. The share of renewable is still below, but we are expecting for the Shigaya with the consortiums who are participated that will increase inshallah in a few years. It's supposed to be in 2030 we should have we should as planned to be 5 gigawatts in 2030. Are we going to reach that? I hope so. The ministry now, they are working hard with the CAP, and here we can discuss what's the challenges. We can see what is supposed to, and what we hope to have, and inshallah we can reach the target.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Engineer Salim CAP, which is the Kuwait Authority for Private and Public Projects, are delving hugely into Shigaya project to make it a smooth and more reliable process for the bidders and international and global developers. And now let's go back to Ms. Asil from JA Solar to maybe like tell us and maybe show us how can solar energy contribute to Kuwait's goal of reducing carbon emissions and achieving sustainability.
Yeah, you know that sustainability and carbon reduction are hot topics recently, and of course, like once we produce module, it emits carbon emission. But once we like install projects and during power generation, there is no, or let's say there is less zero emissions compared to using fossil fuel. So solar energy can play a significant role in reducing carbon emissions and reduce oil dependency. And also it can enhance water and air quality. Like we can achieve greener environment and more sustainable economy. And at JA Solar, we address these challenges and provide high efficient solar panels, bifacial ones, that can help to achieve like the capacity that you need with maintaining a lower carbon footprint. And as I discussed earlier, that once you install the project, you don't have emissions during generation, or you have less emission compared to fossil fuels or other non-renewable energy resources. So this can help Kuwait to achieve 15% of its energy generated from renewable energy by 2030 and reduce reliance on oil based power generation, and of course making the environment more cleaner and sustainable.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Asil, for the answer. And Engineer Salim and Ms. Hiba, you're open also like to add to this answer as well. It's an open discussion, and we want to have contributions from all of you guys. So
I think
yeah.
Yeah,
Mhm.
so if you'd allow me to jump in there. So basically, a lot of discussions happening regarding whether the solar, let's say, energy or renewable energy in general can replace fossil fuel or conventional power. And I think there's a lot of points to be tackled when it comes to these discussions. So, for example, one study that usually is done globally or on a country level basically is that if the grid is capable of handling these injections from the renewable energy and the fluctuations that are happening from the renewable energy, because as we know, it's not a stable power generation from renewable energy. It's more of like intermittent, and there are a lot of fluctuations based on the climate, clouds, and the sun radiation, and so on. So the question lies within if, for example, as I know and as I've heard from the market insight in Kuwait, that Qasr has been running a lot of studies on the stability of the grid and the capacity, or let's say the max cap of what can be injected into the grid from renewable energy. And I think it's safe to say that when it comes to Kuwait, because we've also heard about the outages that are happening in Kuwait right now, especially as also Engineer Salim has mentioned in the summertime, and specifically related to the increase in the demand side when it comes to more power being, let's say, needed for the air conditioners and so on, lying with the increase in the temperature, you have an increase in the demand and so on. So when it comes to that point, it's very safe to study if there's a need for storage in that case, because you cannot achieve such stability without deploying storage into the energy mix, let's say. So for that specific reason, and it's something that is also related, looping back to the question that you asked me, Hashim, what is the technology available in the market that can help Kuwait in the transition to renewable energy? So for that specific reason is the role of batteries. What you have just mentioned is basically reducing carbon emissions and so on, and depending more and more on renewable energy, is because the battery is going to act as your, let's say, first front when it comes to connections between the solar and the grid. So the battery will absorb, let's say, to put it into simple terms, it will absorb the fluctuations that are happening from the solar plant, let's say, and give more stable injections into the grid or the load, or the what we call the peak shaving, which will happen through the battery. So 100% renewable energy is an important factor in helping Kuwait alleviate, let's say, the pressure on the grid, and let's say moving forward and help in solving the problems when it comes to the reliability of the power or the power outages. And I think Engineer Salim has better, let's say, knowledge when it comes to the Kuwait market and the stability of the grid in Kuwait.
Hmm. Thank you, Engineer Asil, and I agree with you 100%. The renewable energy cannot replace the fossil fuel for to getting the reliable power generation, and that's why we didn't hear any more about alternative energy. If you remember, and 15 years ago they raised they give the name for renewable energy as alternative energy. Now nobody is using that because it's not going to replace the need of fossil fuel as the major power production source. And that's why we use only the renewable energy resources. And for Kuwait, exactly what Engineer Asil said, the power system or power network that we have in Kuwait, we only need the support during the summertime, the 2 months or 3 months, and that time we need it only for the demand, the peak time, which is from 11 to 4 p.m. or 5 p.m. So the need for power for the renewable energy, we need them just in that time. If you imagine during the winter, we have only the capacity of running power stations in less than 60% in some cases. So we don't need a lot of power generations during the winter. We need only during the summer, during the peak time, and that can be solved by using and that's why most of the projects here in Kuwait, they are calling for solar more than wind. Wind maybe can, it has the more, it has a higher capacity factor, but it's not during the peak time. Peak time, they can generate power during any time. But during the peak time, the solar has the efficiency more, if we can say it in that term. So the solar power can be used to support the power grid in Kuwait with the support with the energy storage, the help of the technology of the energy storage will make the solar power more reliable, so they can give the great support to Kuwait. And if we think about the opportunities if we think about opportunities of solar renewable, we can, يعني, it has more opportunities in oil sectors more than the ministry sectors, and that we can talk about it more in a few seconds when Mr. Hashim will go through that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
thanks
allow
for your
me to add also here. Um, um, Thank you for this insightful information, and thanks for Hiba for adding these points. Actually, I would say that from manufacturer of
عندي
PV
محاضرة عندي
modules,
محاضرة.
that we need to have an energy mix. Like every country has energy mix. For example, in Kuwait, we have 15% to infuse renewable resources into the to integrate renewable energy resources with non-renewable energy resources. So the target in Kuwait is 15%. And please correct me, Engineer Salem, if I'm wrong. I know that that mix could be 15% that could be achieved by 2030. So if we have this mix, we can reduce reliance on oil and contribute to cleaner and reduction of CO2 emissions. That's all.
Yes, you are right, Ms. Steele, that yeah, we have this 15% of the goal to reach by 2030. And also we have different entities that are setting even higher goals. For example, KOC, the Kuwait Oil Company in Kuwait, they just signed an initiative with the ministry to even start about 1 gigawatt of different solar projects or renewable energy projects that consist of wind and solar as well. So many sectors in Kuwait are trying to greenify like their energy resources, and at the same time prepare for potential changes, maybe in rates, electricity rates in Kuwait, with how the energy demand is increasing in Kuwait. And to add also to that, when I listen to Engineer Salim, maybe notes about what investment opportunities exist in Kuwait, the solar energy market, for local and international investors.
Yes, if we go back to December 2024, during the COP, I think we reached COP 29, I think, the last one. The Amir mentioned, or the government mentioned that by the order of Amir, Kuwait will move we move our vision or the target from 15% of renewable in 2030. We move it to be a country with carbon neutral target to 2050. And this is what our colleague here is يعني talk about the emissions and carbons. So the opportunities here in Kuwait will be moving toward the carbon neutral, or we can call it the green projects in general. When we think about the Ministry of Electricity and Water, whatever the projects they will do, they will not exceed more than 5 gigawatt for the projects that the power grid needs. If we are talking about 20%, because we already in 2030 we need the capacity to be about 30 gigawatt. So the 20% can be like not 5 gigawatt. So the projects opportunities for renewable will be very limited, whatever is the gigawatt of size in Kuwait and the ministry. The high opportunities with the green projects that will be announced soon in Kuwait regarding what is achieving the carbon, the main goal, which is the carbon neutral. The Kuwait Oil Company, they are already signed advisor to draw the outline for their projects. The target to have 17 gigawatt of renewable energy projects, this is the mega projects that we will have soon. And also the advisor will also يعني give the study for the projects of 20 gigawatt for the green hydrogen. And I think the investment opportunities there is very large. Besides the other green projects, if we talk about the dealing with the waste and how to move it to the waste to the waste to energy, reduce the landfills, using some renewable energy for agri projects and so on. I think we need the situation that put these plans and these ambitions of the country in one ball, under one organizing base, so the investor can have a good eye about the opportunities, about the regulations, about the specifications, so that they can work hand by hand with the country to install or employ to install or to execute projects with the high efficiency with a good quality. We have now some of the projects that the ministry will do will be under the CAP, which is the public and private partnerships projects. This is a good way to manage the projects, to make less risk for the government and to also for the investor. But there is some disadvantages of time periods that they can to announce about these projects. We need to increase the opportunities. We need to solve some challenges, and inshallah we'll find the projects executed in the good way.
Engineer, kind of mentioning the specifications and requirements. Uh, the ministry just this week released a new one where they opened the qualification list for both material, includes like PV modules, cables, PV inverters, and along with the list for the contractors. And they settled it to be based on specific criteria and requirements, not to a fixed list of material and contractors. So, what do you think this new guidelines would add to the renewable energy market and renewable energy adaptation?
Uh, it's good, to have your qualification, and to have list of qualifications about the list of manufacturers and contractors and so on. But I think the world is moving faster than that. We cannot stick with the list of names. The names can be qualified in 1 year, and the next year it's not doing the well if you are not doing the continuous evaluations. The most important is to have your own requirements and your own regulations that you can specifically in details that you guarantee the good projects, whether you have the list or we don't have your list. What they announced, I think, for the projects which is less than 5 megawatt, I think, for my experience, um, I think you are in the market, Mr. Hashim. Most of the companies in the list, some subcontractor, they take the projects and they are not doing the work that we are expected from the company in the list. So the matter is not what the names you qualify in the list. When we have the work is not examined with the specifications and requirements, in the way that you assure the work is doing well. This is my comments about sticking with the list, and if you are not in the list I'm not sure about these projects. It's supposed to have your local what do you call regulations and specifications that you guarantee that you control the work with the installer. You should have
Mm.
the country should have their what do you call it, qualified designer, qualified installer, qualified inspectors, and the work should be done by these sectors, not by the general company list to be certified or qualified, and the work is done by local by subcontractors that are not professionals giving the cheap price, but the quality of projects is not done very well. And this is the matter we facing since 2012. Since we announced about the vision, we are a group of engineers. We give warn about these things. We told them we should have these qualifications. In Kuwait Society of Engineers, when I was in the committee, we established a committee of renewable energy committee in 2012, and we make what do you call it? Uh, مجلس التصنيف الهندسي in Arabic, which is the council that classify the majors or specializations of people who are in the field of renewable energy. We established that. We already have it, but the country is not listening to that. I hope let's make our projects to be done by specialized people. We have now a group of engineers. We establish our training centers. We are doing the training in the way that we need the qualified engineers, mainly from the local market, either citizens or not citizens, but from the local market, so they can be qualified to do the projects from the design to testing. And we hope that this is at least for the smaller projects. Hashim, in 2018, there is a law says that any new buildings, governmental buildings, should have like 15% or 10% of the building capacity of electricity should be covered by renewable. So we have a lot of rooftop projects. 2018 until now, we have like 300 buildings have been done. And from now to 230, we have 1,000 maybe government buildings. All of them, we have small scale solar PV projects rooftop. I'm sure, I'm not sure, I'm afraid that the continuity of the projects that have been done before should be surveyed and studied, and we see what's the challenges, and we should stop from now to solve it, not to continuing with this project until the 230, and that will be most of the project will be like worthless. This is what I'm afraid of that. So the matter of list is not, it's good, but there is a lot of homework they should think about those details. A lot of details they need to be put in that regulations and specifications.
Yeah, thank you, Engineer Salam, for this note, and especially focusing on the operation and performance of those projects, because installing a project is something, and guaranteeing the performance and operation and maintenance of those projects is some other focus, or some other, like, let's say, interest should be guaranteed. As me personally, dealing with the ministry and some local projects here, we faced uh, with some like megawatt project that stopped generating any energy in the last 2 years due to like poor operation maintenance from the installer. And may a lot of that can be even avoided through the new technologies. That's why I want to ask you, Ms. Hiba, so how are the global manufacturers now adapting and preparing their material for the Middle East and GCC region, specifically with extreme heat? And we are noticing now like many new technologies that help in monitoring and even like improving the performance of those PV projects.
Yeah, thank you for the question, Hashim. So basically, and I don't want to tie it to Huawei or like promote anything or whatsoever from a perspective, but just to give you an idea, because obviously I'm an expert with our products in the market. But we do have, like, for example, when it comes to Huawei, and there are like a couple of suppliers or like competitors in the market that offer similar technologies when it comes to the operation and maintenance of the solar systems. So specifically related to the high temperatures in this region, and God knows we have faced let's say a lot of, let's say, restrictions when it comes to the installation of the projects in this region. So going back to what you have just mentioned, that a lot of people, they come in and design and try to deploy these systems, but when it comes to the commissioning, they wouldn't work, right? Because of a lot of issues when it comes to the installation, let's say connections and so on, and also a lot of promises when it comes to the performance of the system. And specifically, a lot of people are not being transparent and honest when it comes to how the inverters derate, for example, in this region, or even the panels, let's say, or the batteries, or whatever component you're using, electrical component in the system. So for that reason, a lot of suppliers, for example, to, let's say, mitigate or reduce the backlash coming from the commissioning part of the project, they're stating specifically in their data sheets, for example, that this is the expected, let's say, output of your inverter, let's say, or the derating of the panel at this level of temperature, like 50 degrees. We're taking 50 degrees for this region. So that's one aspect of it, is basically transparency of the capability of the product or the performance of it on in such regions, for example. The other part of it is related to the smart O&M. It's something that we call it in Huawei, smart O&M. And the reason why it's called a smart operation and maintenance, let's say, features for the products, is because they try to reduce the interference of humans in the maintenance of the project, meaning that most of the things are happening remotely, and through AI, artificial intelligence is really showing a huge, let's say, interference in the mix. And the thing is, for example, like your 24/7 real-time monitoring on the products or the performance of the system, on any faults that might happen or uh, occur, let's say, during the operation of your system. So one example is basically sensors on the terminals of the inverter. If the temperature of the inverter increases above, let's say, 60% or so, you get an alarm notification. So all of these things, you're up to date on what's happening in the system on the product level, even on the module level, to the inverter, to the let's say MV network and so on. Everything is being censored and monitored in order to avoid any, let's say, faults that might evolve into safety risks in that case. But if I'm being completely honest with you, 100%, like in this region, we're going to see reduction in the efficiency. We're going to see inverters derating, for example. You cannot avoid that when with these, let's say, very harsh climate conditions. But the thing is, for example, I think I saw one question popping up in the chat, but it's also related to this part, which is basically the dust in our region, let's say. So, for example, we have a lot of our inverters that have self-cleaning fans. So, because dust will accumulate on the panels and will accumulate on the inverter itself, and it will drop down your performance. So, for that reason, there are a lot of technologies in the market when it comes to robotics for cleaning the panels. Or the self-cleaning fan is basically just a simple thing happening in the fan. So, changing the direction of the rotation of the fan will clean it and will remove the dust from it. So, there are a lot of technologies in the market specifically being developed for our region, because we know for a fact that this region is evolving more and more. And of course, we will have, or for example, let's say going back to the geographic, let's say, influence of it, we have a lot of sun exposure, but temperature is also going to affect your efficiency in that case. So in some of our projects in this region, we have indoor installation to overcome, let's say, the high temperature. Or for example, they oversize the system on the inverter side to make up for the drop in the performance or the output power of these inverters. So it's all there within the suppliers. The technology is there, but the key in our industry is transparency. So that's the thing. Suppliers need to be transparent with their end users and also with the grid operators. There are a lot of people that, let's say, they claim to have a certain technology, but then after a year or two or three, you start noticing the issues in the system. Why? Because your solar system is expected to be running for 20 years and 25 years. So if I come and tell you that your system is going to work perfectly and this is the performance of it within the first year, then after the third year or the fourth year, you're going to start noticing the issues, and who's going to save you then? For example, if let's say the APC or the O&M contractor you have is out of the market. So I think transparency is also a key factor in that case as well.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ms. Hiba, for this note. And we'll end with the last question to Ms. Asil from JA Solar. And we want to see, and how significant is the solar energy in meeting Kuwait's future energy needs, and what are the key economic and logistical barriers to the widespread adoption for solar energy in Kuwait, in your perspective?
Oh, yeah, interesting question. I would say before that, thank you for Engineer Salim and Engineer Hiba. They added a lot of insightful information. And in terms as my experience in BV modules, so in terms of modules, R&D department should deploy and should find suitable solutions for every environment. For example, in our countries and in GCC, in Kuwait, we have high dust, we have high temperature, but in other environments they have cold, and they have high altitude environments, and they have other environments. So our role in R&D and as a module manufacturer, we have to find solutions for every environment. I mean, as Hiba said, it's not definitive solution, but we have to provide solutions that tackle these challenges. And that's in terms of modules, let's say, because my experience in BV modules. And in terms of projects, if we need to install projects, and we have deployed several projects by installers, operation and maintenance could play a significant role, and it's around 2 to 3% from capex, project capex. So each installer should, or let's say, should appoint operation and maintenance company to help to address these challenges and to make the system running smoothly without any problem. Like if we provide you a solution tackling these environments, operation and maintenance should maintain the system running to have it I wouldn't say ideal, I would say that to have it generating as expected. So this is in terms of operation and maintenance, and in terms of the technologies that we should provide. And in terms of Kuwait and how could we help them to deploy more solar energy. So Kuwait is making strides toward solar energy, like project in Shagaya, as Engineer Salim discussed this before. But we still have we need some, like in Kuwait, they need some further investment, they need policy support, and they need to do infrastructure upgrades, and also maybe public awareness in order to deploy more solar energy in the region. And at JA Solar, as we are, I wouldn't say that it's kind of, let's say, a promotion for the company, but we can help to support the public awareness in Kuwait by having webinars, events to facilitate deployment solar energy, and to lecture the audience how to address some challenges, how to maintain their system running effectively.
Thank you. Can I add something, Mr. Hashim?
Yeah, go ahead, Mr.
Yeah,
Engineer Salim.
I'm glad, our colleagues, they are talking about some of the harsh conditions that we have in Kuwait. Yes, we have, but it's part of the business. Even anywhere in the world, they have their conditions. Some countries they have snow, some conditions they have dust, some of them they have humidity, and so on. Part of the business that the investor should be stick with to provide the best solution they have. Who's controlling that? The MEW should be putting the guidelines, and the investor should provide the best quality they have. Uh, I'm glad that Hawaii engineer Hiba is here. They have a good experience in Saudi Arabia, for example, for the largest, I think, in the energy storage solar PV power plants, the 100 megawatt. I think the Hawaii is doing that for the future city in Neom to be 100%. What do you call it? Is reliable and not dependent on the grid. And also for the JA, and JA, when they talk about R&D, I'm impressed when I had a chance to visit GA Solar main quarter in China. I saw like buildings. I saw it's like university there. When I in 2015, I had the chance with some delegate from the Kuwait site of engineers. We organized a trip 2015 to China to visit Sana Group or office, and also the JA Solar office. The R&D is and all not this manufacturer, all the manufacturers, when they found the country is clear with the requirements, they will compete, to provide what the country needs, to have the share of the country. And when we have in Kuwait during the increasing the temperature, most of the BB modules, they are competing of what do you call it, the coefficient of temperature factor to be reduced, and this is should be underlined, one of the underlined parameters that we should care about it, besides other specifications. Energy storage will solve that. When you have if you have energy, the high temperature during the summer, during the peak time, will be affected, but not that large. Let's say if it is 20% reducing, the energy storage will be solved. Will solve that during the long day you have during the summer. So energy storage should be has capacity of certain hours that solve during the time that will be affected by the high temperature. These things can be solved should be by professionals in the ministry, besides with the know-how technology that they are dealing with. Uh, uh, and the energy storage should be integrated with producing power. Besides the electrical vehicles, the market is moving fast for the electrical vehicles. If the country is now cannot support, if the country it has challenges to cover the demand of electricity, in the future we'll have a demand of electrical vehicles, that the manufacturer will be increase the share during the country. We don't want in the future charging the electrical vehicle by fossil fuel power stations. We need the share of renewable energy to be taken in that side, to participate in that business. So I think the challenges is part of the business. The solutions is what we should think about it, to reach the final results that make the country safe, winner of using the renewable energy projects.
Yeah, thank you, Engineer Salam, for this response and details. I would like to thank all the panelists here in this webinar today, but want to hold it more to answer the audience questions through the Q&A, where we received many questions, but we will try to pick the answers that or the questions that address most of the audience as much as possible. So we'll be starting with, let me check it. Okay. So, Avanti, do you want to add something?
Yes, sure. So, a big thank you to our distinguished speakers for this insightful session. We will now open the floor for questions from our audience. I'll showcase it one by one on the screen. So, the first question is,
Yeah, I guess this question would be for me. Based on the current guidelines and our discussions with the ministry, household solar PV will still is waiting for specific guidelines for them, as their incentive would be very different to the commercial and industrial sector. Because as you know, the area that can be installed on the houses here in Kuwait is very limited, and they will almost never reach the surplus to export to the grid due to the high energy demand in houses in Kuwait. Usually, houses in Kuwait consume between 30 to 40 kilowatt per hour. Okay, and the area that can where we can install PV solars on those houses, they don't exceed 10 to 15 kilowatts. Okay, so in this case, we will almost never reach the surplus to export to the grid. So the incentive for the private households are still is still waiting for specific guidelines and incentives by the ministry. And I think maybe Mr. Salam, if you want to add something, you open the mic. Yeah, if not, we can jump to the next question.
Yeah, yeah, that's fair enough that you mentioned. I think let's move to the another one. Yeah.
Okay, I guess this question goes to Engineer Asil from JA Solar.
Okay, yes. For anti-dust solutions, we have it for commercial industrial sector. Like if you need to install PV modules on commercial sector, you can use this panel. It has a dimension of it has a dimension that like similar to other products that we have, but what we added on the module is drainage holes. So the drainage holes on the short side of the frame can, so once you have, for example, rain, and if you don't have rain, you do cleaning, water can easily wipe or wash dust and avoid buildup. So, and without obstructions on those holes. So this is proved to be useful for commercial industrial, and we have several demonstration projects that shown a higher generation for anti-dust solution compared to regular module. And for nanotechnology, I think nanotechnology has introduced in 2016, if I recall, which we had some debate about it. It has to be applied before like on glass side but not on module side, so it's still not mature enough and we have debate about it. But what we have in JA Solar, we have anti-dust solution which has a drainage holes on the short side of the frame, and it's proved to have more generation compared to regular one, and it can be used for commercial industrial solutions. I hope this is clear for you.
Yeah, and I can add for the nanotechnology that can play a great role for the controlling the X-rays, to can reflect the heat wave, yani, what do you call it, wavelength of the heat X-rays or sun rays. So we have the nanotechnology can play a great role of absorbing the sun rays that is suitable for the what do you call it, the cell of solar cells. Yeah. Yeah. You want to move to the next questions, Mr. Hashim?
Yeah, I think this question is maybe very detailed to a specific expert. I'm not sure if the panelists have the ability to answer this question.
We will just move to the next question.
Yeah, if any of the panelists is willing to answer this question.
Uh, I'm not sure understanding that solar year around. What do you mean? If we don't use solar year, Kuwait is moving to achieve their obligations for the NDCs. The NDC is not only for the renewable energy projects; it's integrated obligations that we have, like increase the green areas, the movement in the future for the carbon capture, and so on. Part of it is using renewable energy projects. So the NDCs, the country, they have their it's moving toward that. Yes, we have some challenges in the renewable energy sectors, but still the NDCs, they are moving, inshallah, to be achieved as required. Yeah. Okay. Uh, sure, the Shigaya projects. This is questions, I think, for me, Mr. Hashim. Huh?
Yes,
Yes.
it goes to you. And
Yeah. Yeah, we can participate in all. The Shigaya once announced in 2012. The idea is to have a complex that has multiple renewable energy sources, which is the wind and solar PV technology and solar CSP thermal projects. And the 70 megawatt that is already installed in Kuwait for the Shigaya phase 1, the 50 megawatt is CSP projects. So in the future, for the Shigaya now, they announce about the final stage of Shigaya. They announced already 1.1 to be solar PV projects. We have more than 3 gigawatt is expected to be solar PV. It has the high share of that projects, but CSV can be part of that. As the grid stability requirements, maybe they require the energy storage the reliable productions that can provide by CSP. The CSP will be part of it. And when this questions remind me about the issue Engineer Hiba talk about the considerations of the harsh conditions that we have, such as the dust. We not only have these conditions to be taken in considerations from the owner, which is the ministry, and the business investor to be taken in the considerations. Part of it we should consider about the safety and the technology that we have for our projects. We have incident in Kuwait of Shigaya. There is a fire flame happened last year. That will take some question marks. How safety is our projects, and what should we put for our coming projects of terms and conditions and specifications to assure that the safety will be in the high level. So the safety conditions, the sensors, the monitoring, and so on is part of the business and part of the requirement, and that will be taken into considerations. I know it's different from these questions, but I like to add it since we talk about the challenges and what's the solutions.
Uh, is there any other question, Mr. Benati? Or
Actually, Hashim, if you would just allow me, because Brian just explained his point when it comes to the question of using the solar system around the year, as what he called
okay.
it, but he was referencing back to what Engineer Salim has mentioned about the load increasing in summertime, but in winter they can manage the load, or let's say supply demand is balanced one way or another. So 100%, obviously, if we're going to deploy a solar system, we're going to be using it all year long. But the thing is, to back to that point, because sometimes when you have, let's say, or in specific loads, let's say if you have a jump in a certain time or period of time, then they ramp up diesel generators, or they introduce or increase power plants, which costs a lot of money for the infrastructure and the building and connections, let's say, and overhead transmission lines and so on, which is needed, let's say, for a specific period of time. But 100%, I would say that solar systems would cost, let's say, less money to implement and to build and operate, basically, than just increasing generation for these periods of time. And 100%, one thing that also allow me to add this point, in addition to what we have discussed previously, if you look at the load profiles in summer, since we see that the bulk amount, or the bulk loads are related to the air conditioners in Kuwait, specifically tied to the increase in temperatures, and that's why you have sudden jumps in the loads when it comes to the summertime. And if you look at that, the load profile for the ACs kind of follows the solar production, which is the bell curve. So 100% introducing or increasing the penetration from the solar production into the grid will solve this issue when it comes to the high demand in summer, and of course reducing the dependency or the reliance on oil when it comes to winter. So in both cases, it's needed, summer or winter. Solar will be producing, specifically that in Kuwait we see rarely we see clouds, or let's say rainy days and so on. So 100%, and it would be more efficient in winter, to be more accurate, if I'm being honest, when it comes to the temperatures as well. So I just wanted to clarify that point for Brian. I hope he got the
Yeah,
point there.
thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Hiba, for clarification. And also to answer some questions, I think from Gino Thomas, he asked in the chat that I mentioned there is a pre-qualification process has started at the ministry. So, Mr. Gino, this week, I believe Monday, there was a PV guidelines has been published on the ministry website. Okay, uh, I can share my screen just to show the audience to give some knowledge about that, because it has been shared recently just now. Okay. Yeah. So if you guys go to the home page for the Ministry of Electricity and Water and Renewable Energy, if you go to Media Center, then references and guidelines and guidebooks, sorry, go back to Renewable Energy section, Renewable Energy, then click here, Renewable Energy. So these guidelines have been just published for the PV equipment, PV material, PV contractors, and the design procedures. They consist of how is the contractor selection, the PV design, compliance, installation requirements, and even the inspections by third party. So this guideline has been just published, and all stakeholders in the renewable energy should be following these guidelines. And us as Shagaya Sustainable Solutions and other companies, we are involved now with the ministry on how to apply this guidelines in our projects. That's just to answer Gina Thomas' question. Okay, and now going back to another question from Mr. Bidanga. So, at what rate is Kuwait electricity consumption growing annually? Okay, and how much oil does Kuwait consume daily for electricity and water production? What was Kuwait's installed renewable energy capacity at the end of 2024? I will answer you on the information I have as of now. In terms of the what Kuwait installed renewable energy capacity, based on our uh, calculations in Kuwait now, it has about between 250 to 300 installed and planned for this year, 2025. As and that's considering not only governmental projects but also private projects. We have noticed a huge jump in the private projects in Kuwait, and a lot of them due to sustainability targets, especially for the listed companies in Kuwait local stock market. They have introduced just a new law, a new mandate by the Board of Kuwait, the stocks market of Kuwait, that requires all listed companies to share their sustainability reports, which pushed a lot of big companies in Kuwait, financiers, and huge companies to adapt renewable energy projects and ESG ones. So that made a huge jump in renewable energy adaptation in Kuwait for the private sector. Okay, in terms of how much oil does Kuwait consume, I don't have these numbers as of now with me. And yeah, other than that, I think you have another question. What challenges does Kuwait face in achieving its renewable energy goals? If any of the panelists want to answer that.
Well, I would share with you some of the experiences that we've been facing or having when it comes to Kuwait market. So one of the challenges I would say is the basically the bureaucratic hurdles. So you have a lot of approvals and a lot of entities that you need to tackle, and there isn't, let's say, the regulatory framework is still not implemented well. Let's say in the country, from what we have heard, let's say from our partners and so. And another part of that is basically the grid infrastructure there. So if we're facing outages, then that means that we need to improve the infrastructure of the grid in order for it to be able to handle the injections back into the grid, which was also related to a question there. So in countries, for example, I'll give you Jordan as an example, we have 28% renewable energy penetration because the grid is capable of handling these injections. And you need to incentivize people in order for them to install solar systems on their rooftops or residential, let's say, scenarios. So for that case specifically, which is a sensitive topic, so to speak, is the basically energy subsidy reform. So how are you going to incentivize Kuwaitis in order for them to install solar systems on their rooftops? So 100% there are a couple of challenges that are facing the Kuwaiti market, but as engineer Salim said, the country is moving well towards, let's say, fixing these challenges and also finding solutions for these problems. So I think the country also with the new, I read the other day about the new Kuwait plan, and I feel like it's one of the six pillars in the strategy. So infrastructure of the grid and renewable energy is a huge part of it. And as I heard as well, there will be $400 million investment in technology and renewable energy. So I think we'll see more progress, let's say, in the country. And in comparison to what we have seen in the past 5 years, it has been slow. But so, like, let's say that we're optimistic about the progress that we're going to see in the coming years in the market.
Yeah, thank Ms. Hiba for this note and this, like, as you said, yes, the new initiatives now in Kuwait are focusing more and more on renewable energy. Okay, and to wrap up this webinar, want to see if you guys have any last words that you want to share with us, especially that a lot of the audience now are from Kuwait and outside Kuwait, global potential developers, investors, and all that. If you have any last words that you want to give to those audience before we wrap up.
I think I will start. Uh, After we have or improve infrastructure, modified policies, and support from the government, we still need private sector support, of course, and we still need maybe more vocational training and education for the workforce in Kuwait to help in deploying and facilitate more
हेलो, आपने
solar
किया क्या
energy.
लास्ट का? हाँ, मैं
Sorry.
करती हूँ अभी, मेरा आ गया है, मेरा आ गया है।
I
Uh,
think,
Background noise.
yeah, some interceptions. You can go ahead. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, I would discuss that we still need vocational training, education, and public awareness in order to deploy solar energy in Kuwait. That's all from my side.
Yeah, thank you. And my comments will be related to what Engineer Asil mentioned. First, I would like to thank يعني, the organizer, the Solar Quarter, for these webinars. And I'm glad to meet you guys here in this talk. Regarding the training, yes. Since me and Mr. Hashim, maybe he noticed that I'm trying to lead the type of training that is not commercial. I need to make very, what do you call it, very effective training that make the trainees very qualified to the business. To the projects, to manage projects. I had like my private institute that is recognized by government, by the Civil Service Bureau, and the Public Authority of Applied Educations, and we are organizing periodically the training that is very effective with the very qualified instructors to avoid the commercial training and to move to the effective training. Here for our audience, from our friends, from any companies that would like to be a sponsor for this training, it's our pleasure. We are trying to make it as low cost as we can, so all the people in Kuwait, local markets, citizen and not citizen, to join this training, and also we invite the Solar Quarter to be part of it, to make our training enrich with the knowledge, with the skills that the market needs, not the commercial ones. We need something to be more effective. Thank you again, and we can move forward inshallah to the success in the projects and the business here in Kuwait.
So, thank you to both our audience and panelists for this insightful discussion. So, as we come to the close of today's session, a special thanks to Mr. Hashim Al Bharani for excellently moderating and guiding the conversation so effectively. We are deeply grateful to our attendees for taking the time to join us today and contribute to the success of this webinar. As we conclude, we want to assure you that we will be back soon with more thought provoking sessions. The floor is now open for networking. Thank you once again, and we'll look forward to seeing you at the upcoming events. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so
Uh,
much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Wish you all the best in your energy transition in many aspects. Take care, guys.
You as well, Hashim.